Eastern Spain, Levante. Cycling through the autonomous communities of Murcia, Valencia, and Catalonia, this journey took me through deserts and rocky hills, battling wind and weather, through massive rock gorges, over hills and mountains, past spectacular seaside vistas, along cycle paths and greenways, from the sea to the mountains, visiting ancient monuments and modern architectural wonders. This is Cycling Eastern Spain. I'll never get tired of waking up in places like this. The hushed sound of gentle waves, a warm breeze from the sea, the sun cresting over the horizon, washing the landscape in golden light. After a wonderful night beneath the full moon at this magical beach temple near Carboneras, I was off to ride north along Spain's eastern coast. An empty switchback road brought me winding high into otherwise untouched hills. From the top, at the Mirador de la Granatilla, I waved a last goodbye to my camp, fading into the distance. Following the coastal road on the Eurovelo 8 route, I drifted through quiet beach towns, coastal farmland, and cliffs overlooking the ocean. Officially making the entrance into the autonomous community of Murcia. As the light began to turn golden, I passed the cliffs of Cabo Cope and the town of Calabardina, before entering a long plain of farmland and towards the final pass of the day. Just after sunset, and I gotta go over these mountains. From the summit of the pass at about 400 meters, dusk settled over the coast. The rising moon shone in the distance, reflecting on a sea of greenhouses in the plain below. Although it would have been spectacular wild camping at the top, I didn't have enough water to stay the night, so I peacefully freewheeled back down to the beautiful coast for the night. An incredible sunrise brought light onto the Sierra de las Moreras. On peaceful gravel road, through scrubland and palms, I made my way through the park. Arriving in the town of Bolnuevo, the landscape became punctuated by eroded sandstone cliffs and hoodoos, with the most striking formation known as the Ciudad Encantada, the Enchanted City. Eurovello route left the coast behind, and after crossing a small pass, I diverted from the route to shortcut north towards Murcia, propelled along the plain by perfect tailwinds. I'm not pedaling. The afternoon slipped by on quiet roads beneath graying skies. A stretch of total serenity. Climbing gently out of the plain, I rejoined with the Eurovello, crossing a small pass at the Puerto del Garrochal, and descended down a spectacular canyon into the dusk, to the city of Murcia. Wow! I arrived in the city as the last pinks of sunset faded from the sky, then settled in for 2 nights of rest at a hostel. Murcia was a beautiful city, full of wonderful nature and architecture. But with the sun shining above, the road called once more, and it was time to head out again along the banks of the Segura River. So I've just left Murcia at midday today, after 2 nights of rest there. Now I've got this bike path for about 50 kilometers today, alongside the river. Yeah, this is the good life today, that's for sure. After 20 kilometers along the river, I made a last-minute change at the town of Orihuela. Leaving the Eurovello behind, I began to follow the Camino del Cid. This route traverses more than 2,000 kilometers across Spain, following the account of the legendary 11th century medieval knight El Cid, as written in the poem of El Cid. The route is well marked and mapped, and has options for traveling by foot, bike, or vehicle, all while exploring incredible landscapes and historical towns. In the town of Elche, I passed through part of the Palmeral, a vast collection of date palm groves around the city, originally planted in the Roman era and now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In the Elche area alone, there are more than 200,000 palms. Heading out of the city at sunset, I rode into the Vinalopó River Valley. Leaving the paved roads behind, a big bike mechanical began to show. My drivetrain was infrequently skipping and causing an uncomfortable grating noise. Hoping to diagnose the problem at camp, I carried on carefully to my planned camp spot. A beautiful overlook above the valley on a flat gravel platform at the site of an old quarry. This spot was a real treasure, remarkably close to the city, yet so serene. It felt like a hidden secret world. I couldn't solve the mechanical issues with my bike, but under the night sky, in such a spectacular place, I didn't mind. In the morning, I had two options for bike shops, 5 kilometers back to Elche, or 5 kilometers forward to the smaller town of Aspa. At least in Spain, bike mechanics are never far away. I chose the direct route forward, pushing the bike over a short hiking and mountain bike trail, before freewheeling down into Aspa to visit the mechanic. The issue is that the drive ring inside the rear hub is worn in the center, and well, the rear hub needs to be replaced, so I either need to get a wheel rebuild or a new rear wheel entirely. So I can at least pedal right now without grinding it out, and I'm going to try to make it to Valencia, where hopefully I can find a better proliferation of bike shops and or wheel builders. Fortunately, he was able to provide a temporary fix with some pawl changes for the free hub, but recommended a full hub change as soon as possible. At least I was able to continue on the Camino del Cid, rolling into the evening on quiet roads. From the town of Villena at dusk, I rode onto the fantastic Via Verde Xixara. I always treasure these opportunities to ride peaceful paths into the night, cycling with only the quiet rhythm of the bike and vast dark expanses of land all around under a starry sky. I was also cycling on the route of the castles of Vinalopó. Here in the upper reaches of the river valley, several stone fortresses still stand proudly on their hilltops, built in the 11th and 12th centuries to fortify the boundaries between different kingdoms. These include the castles of Biar, Villena, and Bañeres. From the town of Bocairent, my morning began with a long descent. The road curling gracefully between the walls of a steep gorge following the path of the Clariano River. As the canyon walls opened up near the town of Ontinyent, the blue waters of the famous Poclar swimming holes were revealed. The Camino del Cid carried me onward through farms and groves, before passing alongside the Albaida River out of the town of Belus. Here the cliffs hide the Cova Negra, a large cave where archaeological remnants of Neanderthal settlement, dating back over 250,000 years ago, can still be found. In the town of Manuel, a short section of old rail line has been reborn as multi-use path. The limestone walls of the previous gorges had been replaced with the brick facades of houses rising above the trail. This is the first built section of the Via Verde Ribera Costera, with future development in the works to link more towns across the countryside. As dusk deepened, I entered into the Albufera Natural Park. At its heart lies the freshwater lagoon of Valencia, a vital local wetland for fishermen and birds alike. Around the lagoon, vast areas have been converted into rice fields, and it was on roads in between these flooded fields that I rode back towards the coast under the stars. A fiery sunrise painted the sky, the skyline of Valencia visible on the horizon nearby. And heading out on peaceful path through the park, I rode towards the city. Crossing the Turia River, I entered into the city of Valencia. This river has been diverted from its original course through the city following a catastrophic flood in 1957, the original empty riverbed being reborn as the largest urban park in Spain, the Turia Garden, stretching over 9 kilometers, alive and thriving with cycle and walking paths, arts, culture, and recreation facilities. As I waited for a new wheel to be delivered, I spent a few days resting and exploring the city. I was wowed by the spectacular architecture of the Valencia Cathedral, construction of which began in the 13th century. Marveling at the religious artifacts inside, including what is purported to be the Holy Grail. And from the top of the famous El Micalet bell tower, I watched the city glow under a spectacular sunset. The City of Arts and Sciences was another Valencian wonder. Bold, futuristic, and unmistakable, the complex arises out of the old riverbed and serves as both a cultural landmark and a symbol of Valencia. At last, with a new wheel shipped in, it was time to continue the journey. After 4 days in Valencia waiting for a rear wheel replacement, I'm finally back on the road. Currently being absolutely tossed around by an insane crosswind from the west. So hopefully I just don't get thrown into the ocean today. The Via Verde Shura led me north out of the city. Despite the strong winds, it was a lively ride with blue skies, and turning onto country roads as the wind still howled, I pedaled onwards through farms and fruit tree groves. Arriving in the beach resort town of Benicassim, I spent the night by the coast, finding peace listening to waves gently crash against the rocky shore as stars shone above. Along this coast stand several 16th century watchtowers, built to guard against pirate invasions. Starting my day in the perfect way on bike path, I set off along the aptly named Via Verde del Mar, the Greenway of the Sea. Following rail trail along the coast, between high rock-cut walls, past bays with sweeping views of the sea, and through long tunnels. In the Sierra d'Irta Natural Park, a scenic gravel road carried me through quiet forests and along the coast next to serene pebble beaches, where gentle waves broke against the shore. Back on pavement, I rolled into the fortified city of Peñíscola, crowned by its iconic castle dating back to the early 14th century.
Now I made it to a place with one of the best names in Spain.
Strong winds continue to howl into the night, and in the morning I set off on gravel paths across the Ebro River Delta. Of rivers on the Iberian Peninsula, the Ebro ranks second in both length and discharge volume, and I made my crossing of it on the Amposta Suspension Bridge, which at the time of opening in 1921 was the largest of its kind in Spain. A network of canals spans the delta, and much of the land has been transformed into agricultural areas for fruit, vegetable, and rice production. The rest of the afternoon was spent on quiet roads and seaside cycle paths, enjoying the silence during the siesta under the gentle January sun. On the outskirts of Tarragona, the landscape shifted dramatically. Warehouses, factories, and industrial plants stretched on endlessly, forcing me onto the highway. But eventually, bike path reappeared, guiding me safely into the city. Tarragona is built on the ancient city of Tarraco, the first and largest Roman settlement on the Iberian Peninsula. Today, Roman ruins remain scattered throughout, most notably the 2nd century amphitheater. By morning, the winds had eased and it was time to take advantage of the incredible weather, cycling along the coast on beachside promenades between sparkling ocean and bustling morning markets. Soon, cliffs rose steeply from the shoreline once more. The cycle paths disappeared, and I found myself riding the Garraf coastal road. Despite stretches of heavy traffic, the respectful and courteous behavior of Spanish motorists made the ride quite pleasant. At last, on the outskirts of Barcelona, bike paths resumed, and I followed safe and straightforward routes into Catalonia's capital and largest city. I spent several days here simply enjoying the city of Barcelona. This city exceeded all my expectations with its culture, architecture, and well-designed and ever-expanding cycling network. Of course, I visited the world-famous Gaudi-designed Sagrada Familia in its 141st year of construction. This architectural wonder is truly a masterpiece. The basilica is like nothing else in the world, and its magical wonder deserves to be seen by anyone visiting Barcelona. My evenings were spent exploring viewpoints above the city by bicycle, returning to a welcoming hostel each night, grateful for the chance to pause and take it all in. Under drizzly gray skies, I rolled out of Barcelona, following peaceful paths and promenades along the water's edge. Rounding a rocky point under pastel sunset skies, I passed the Calella Lighthouse and into its namesake city. Pushing on for another hour into dusk, along palm-lined paths whipped by wind, I found a campsite for the night in the Tordera Delta and settled in close to the crashing ocean waves. The geography of the coast began to substantially change as I entered the Costa Brava, the Wild Coast, stretching all the way to the French border. Long sandy beaches gave way to dramatic hills, forests, and rugged rocky shoreline. In the town of Tossa de Mar, a perfectly preserved medieval walled city overlooked a golden sandy beach framed by rocky headlands. Leaving town on the coastal road, the only other traffic seemed to be small groups of road cyclists out for morning rides and their respective support vehicles.
What a beautiful place. Wow.
At the small town of Salionc, I left the coast of Spain for the last time and turned northwards to climb up the GIP 6821 road, switchbacking its way up slowly to nearly 500 meters. Descending the far side, a breathtaking panorama opened up before me, my first glimpse of the distant snow-capped Pyrenees Mountains. Quiet country roads and paths led me onwards through the plain. As the sun set, I entered the outskirts of the city of Girona, and on fantastic cycle route, rode into the city. After passing through Girona, I rode another 30 kilometers into the night to cowboy camp on top of an old optical telegraph tower. These towers were built in the 1850s and used to transmit information with light signals. Their practical use lasted barely a decade, as by 1862 they were all replaced by wired telegraphs. This restored tower is still a nice off-the-beaten-path destination, with incredible 360-degree views of the surrounding countryside and Pyrenees Mountains. My final morning in Spain was spent on quiet rural roads, through small towns, and on gravel tracks as I rode into the foothills of the mountains. And in the quiet town of La Pertus, I departed Catalonia and entered into France.